This is for the Irish people. It's for the whole of Ireland. It's not just, I'm not going to benefit by being here today. You're not going to it's all round. It's when the price of a pound of butter and a sliced pan, it's gone crazy. And it's going to keep going. So where is it going to stop?
Well, here we are outside the cradle of our democracy, the GPO, where 110 years ago this month, the Easter Rising occurred and everything happened from there. This week, there's a rising of a rather different sort. I'm joined by Ciaran Moran, the Deputy Farming Editor of the Irish Independent and the Farming Independent. Ciaran, I'm looking around me here. There's no traffic because it's all blocked. I've got a tractor from Kildare, buses from Meath, trucks from West Cork, buses from minibuses from Tipperary, and down both sides of O'Connell Street, blocked with people who basically drive for a living.
Yeah.
What is the argument that these people are putting forward?
Well, I think it's really important to put this in context, that this doesn't just start with the Iran war. A lot of these people really feel disenfranchised, I really think, since going back to particularly the introduction of the carbon tax. I mean, a lot of these people have no alternative to diesel. I mean, you can't tell a contractor here to put an electric vehicle on a plough. It's nonsensical. You know, people that are pulling livestock, for instance, 40-ton trailers, that's just not going to work with electric vehicles, certainly not at the moment, maybe in the future, hopefully in the future. So the
relying on Elon Musk to come up with the Tesla tractor. Yeah.
So the reality is that the carbon tax is viewed by them as just a punitive tax on their business, and that's been under this whole thing bubbling away for a long time. This anger, and obviously then with the Ukraine crisis, that sharp increase. But at that time, if you recall, there was a huge increase in oil prices across the board, and some of the diesel costs that these guys were hit with at that time, they were able to buffer it back down to their supply chain. But right now, it's much more difficult. The Iran thing hit much quicker, and it's been much more acute surge in diesel prices. And some of these people, like I'm talking to contractors all the time, they're really worried about, you know, how they price jobs. Like the thing is moving so fast, you know, and you know, desperate people resort to desperate things. And I think that's what we're seeing here at the moment. I mean, there's some serious kit here. It's going to be hard to move from it. I don't know how anyone's going to move it. Like, I mean, we're talking about the army being on this out at the moment.
Unless you get a crane in to lift one of those trucks, they ain't going anywhere. Let's just break it down a bit more for people. So let's talk about the different types of diesel. You've got white diesel, which is what I put in my car, what you put in your car. We then have green diesel, which is used
farmers and contractors mainly. I mean, it's important to say that the lorry drivers are using white diesel. Mainly, and they're obviously paying that full rate that you're all experiencing. The reason the green diesel is lower, it's an effort to basically keep food prices down, so that our food production system, you know, couldn't really cope with diesel prices at that level, because diesel is so essential to every activity on the farm nowadays. You know, since mechanization, you know, go back to the 1940s certainly. So, you know, at the moment, green diesel is trading there. I checked myself around 167 cents a litre, and you have, obviously I filled my car this morning at 215, so that's the kind of variation there.
What was green diesel at, say,
pre-war I heard it was at 110. And white diesel was around 170, would I be right in saying that, pre the war in Iran? So, I mean, obviously a massive, the reason why, you know, agri-diesel has gone up 30% nearly, much higher, is because that there's less tax on it. So there was less, when the government took off the tax of white diesel, the buffer wasn't felt as much on green diesel, because there isn't originally less tax on green diesel. So that's you know, another anger here.
So
like the government,
the tax didn't cut it down as much.
So it was just 3 cents.
Proportionately, it was shot up higher.
So the cut for farmers in the government announcement last week was just 3 cents on agri-diesel. It was I've seen one farm organiser said it was almost like throwing a cake at a bear. You know, like it was almost insulting in a way. Just 3 cents, and I think, you know, the government really haven't come to terms with the seriousness of the situation in terms of diesel for these types of businesses.
And a lot
like,
of-
look at these lorries here, Fionnán. Can you say this big lorry?
Yeah.
You're talking about €90 an hour to run that.
Yeah.
On diesel alone. Never mind the driver paying him.
Yeah.
So, like,
the cost
it's
of the
really
kit,
worrying.
the cost of the kit
It's
itself.
really worrying.
So
So, how does that company price its next job without losing money on it?
And a lot
It's
of
very
these
difficult.
guys would have tanks in their own yard that they would
Yes.
fill up. But
Yeah.
we're coming into silage cutting season
Yeah.
now. For contractors will be out.
Yeah, there's
Farmers themselves will be out. So
there's super interesting dynamics there as well. So, like, say if you have a contractor might have a 10,000 litre tank, costs them 16,500 to fill that tank. All of a sudden, the price of diesel falls 20% in the meantime. He has to go and sell that to the farmer and say, "Oh, I have to charge you more because I bought that diesel back when it was high." And you can imagine that conversation not going to go down well. Like, I mean, I as a farmer myself, I'm facing it into a huge increase in the price of the silage this year. And it's quite frightening. Like, nobody really knows how all this is going to get paid for. As I said, the last time, beef prices, dairy prices, the price of grain, they all skyrocketed, and that buffered it for the farmer, and obviously hurt the consumer.
Yeah.
At the moment, all those products are in the negative. So, there's a kind of a supply chain gap there that's going to have to be bridged somehow, and that's where you're seeing the frustration here, at the moment.
And talk to me then about the representative nature of this protest, because this is not IFA, it's not ICMSA, it's not the Irish Road Haulage Association.
No.
So who are these people, and why do they feel they're not represented by what we call the mainstream organisations?
So maybe a few decades ago this would be called the grassroots movement, but this is certainly a social media movement we're seeing here. This is people that...
So would it have been possible 20 years ago?
I don't believe so.
Like this?
No, I don't believe so. The types of people that come and do this aren't maybe your average contractor. It's people that are exercise, people that want to get involved in things like this and go and make the effort to be here. I mean, it's not easy to drive a tractor up here. It took time and all the rest of it, and then it took that commitment to stay as well.
Yeah.
And to be...
So a lot of these guys are here day 3 now.
Day 3, and to
they're gonna stay.
you can see them here. They're putting the chest out here. I'm not moving.
Yeah.
A certain type of person that's going to do that as well.
Yeah.
And so you have the main organisations. They have been in with the government, and clearly there's things going on behind the scenes. I mean, Michael Martin this morning wasn't clear on what was going on behind the scenes, but there is talks happening. I mean, they're looking for the protesters here. I mean, there are different elements of it. Some of them say they're not connected to each other, that the protests at the port aren't connected to this protest, etc. But anyway, a key theme is like bringing the price of green diesel down to €1 a litre and white diesel down to 170. It's not clear yet. Could the government even do that? Is that even possible? I don't know. And it's certainly going to cost the Department of Finance won't be happy hearing it, or the Revenue Commissioners.
With EU regulations, are you allowed to do that as well? So there's all sorts of question marks there.
How would it work logistically?
Also, how long is this going to last? Because even if the ceasefire as such holds, and the Straits of Hormuz are opened up through the landmine or the sea mines that are currently laid, the damage to the infrastructure in the Middle East, this is not something that's going to end this weekend.
Yeah, and also
you're
talking huge money as well. I mentioned that someone with a 10,000 litre tank, you're talking about tens of thousands of euros. Imagine someone with a 50,000 litre tank.
Yeah.
They're then, are they going to win here and the price of agri-diesel is going to go down to €1?
Yeah.
There's serious money involved in waiting out here. What's going to happen? So there's a lot of uncertainty. I don't know. The government are like, they can't say too much.
Yeah.
It's kind of we all seen the movements on the stock exchange.
Yeah.
That looked a bit strange, to say the least. You know what I mean? It's a similar kind of situation here. The government can't be saying, "Oh, we're going to cut things." All of a sudden, people trying to game the system. You know what I mean?
Government will be watching sort of a similar protest in recent years by the beef plan movement. a breakaway group from the main farming organisations. What happened there, and how did that come to an end?
Yeah, it was a simple protest over prices were too poor for farmers, which they were at the time. It was very low, and it went on for 6 weeks. It was a full blockade of businesses. These were, rather than a road blockade, this was a blockade of meat factories, so individual businesses. And fundamentally how that ended at the time was basically down to court summonses.
Okay.
The factory owners, you call them the beef barons or whatever you want to call them, they issued summonses to some of the people outside the gates, some of the people that were maybe identify themselves as leaders of the protest, and they were in court. Soon after that, the protest ended, because things get serious when you're up in court, obviously. It's not clear yet how that would work here, who would issue the summonses, because kind of who's in charge of the roads.
Yeah.
Maybe the refinery is a different question. I'm not
the
sure.
The refinery and the oil depots could be a different scenario, where the owners there can say, listen, you're blocking
costing me money,
ability to do business.
You can imagine making that case to a judge. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, they seem extremely determined. I mean, that I've spoken to them this morning, they seem extremely determined. So it's going to be a real test of government, as you can say.
Yeah, I mean, the government is talking about this is about democracy versus anarchy, and the obvious implication then is that this is anarchy.
Yeah.
Doesn't look too anarchic anyway. But nonetheless, it's also we have to bear in mind, it's a relatively quiet week. It's the tail end of the Easter holidays. It's after a long bank holiday, the weekend. If this kicks in though into next week with the schools back and everybody fully back to work, that's a kind of a different scenario. What do you think, in terms of your perspective, you've dealt with groups like this over the years. If it turns to physical force, the army and the guards coming in and removing these vehicles, how do you think these guys will respond?
Well, I think firstly, I don't think it's clear that the army or the state have the equipment necessary to move this.
Yeah.
This is savage machinery here at the moment. Also, the individuals that might have the equipment, it's not clear that they'd be willing to come and move fellow contractors or hauliers off the streets. I mean, that would be a very difficult situation for them to be put in. So that's one issue. I think these guys are super determined.
Okay.
I think unless they need to be seen to get something, they're after staying here for 3 days, I think they're going to move willingly. Yeah. They're going to have to get a phone call from someone high up to reassure them that things are going to happen. It doesn't look like the Taoiseach certainly didn't sound like he was going to do it this morning. Like a notable comment, I won't negotiate with a gun to my head. Is that what he said?
Yeah. Well, his point is that he negotiates and he meets and he talks with representative bodies. It's not clear what the leadership structure, if there is one, of these protesters. If you're talking to a group here, are they the same guys who are down in Whitegate and Foynes and Galway? Not at all clear. Can another half dozen guys turn up here next week then with a different list of demands? So that's
who's in control? Who's in control is the main. No one has identified themselves as the leader yet.
What about the likes then of the IFA, ICMSA, the IRHA? Are they coming under pressure then to get involved with these groups? Are they been accused of standing back and being too soft?
That's definitely going to be said of them.
Yeah.
Whether they're worried about this, I think definitely depends on what the outcome is here.
Yeah.
If these guys here score a big win and diesel is at €171, it's not going to be good for the farm organisations. They're going to look like they sat on the sidelines in a big battle. But if this descends into some kind of anarchy situation where people are being dragged off the roads or whatever, they might say, "Oh, glad we're not involved in that." So,
so it's a wait and see. So we're on
which seems to be what the government is doing at the moment.
Yeah, they're banking on that this will just peter out.
Yeah, maybe that they go home for the weekend. But I've seen a lot of talk, on social media again that they might come back on Tuesday. Might go home for the weekend and come back on Tuesday.
Right. So you could get spot strikes basically every now and again.
And I think we should just say as well, hasn't it been extremely effective?
Well, it has. It has shut down Dublin city centre. The Lewis is running down past Jim Larkin there. The line is running along that way, but the Lewis can't come up on Collins Street.
Yeah.
Effectively, the entire city centre
And let's not just focus on Dublin, Fionnán.
And let's not just go to Dublin. You also have the only oil refinery in the country is shut down.
The motorways.
The depots in Foynes and Galway gone. The motorways.
Yeah.
With M50, we had the M1 being closed off. We've got disruption at airports. So yeah, you would say it has been an effective protest. For something that is apparently so disorganised and no actual structure to it. It's happening.
Yes, and I just say it's worth considering what is the head count of the protesters that are here.
Yeah.
I mean, these are massive machines, so it looks quite impressive. But it's amazing what maybe 50 people can do. If you've seen a protest of just 50 individuals here, you wouldn't say this is a big thing. But
no, the GPO has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 vehicles, as we call them.
Now, let's not get on. They're getting a lot of support out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people hurting. So, a lot of people would say, I would be there if I could, all this kind. You're seeing these messages. So, but it's amazing how quickly the whole country can be shut down by a small group of people.
The group it's probably concerned people around Ireland. They can see what's happening to Ireland with what's happening around everywhere. There's money going out to help every war and we're not against that at all, but we need to help our own people. We're here in O'Connell Street, we don't be here that often. There's very few Irish on the street, and that's not a bad thing maybe, but at the same time we're supporting people. People is coming in, getting supports, getting set up. We're not getting supports. We're trying to stay going, and it is very, very difficult. And until you're doing it to realise how difficult it is, it's extremely difficult at this moment in time, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
The Taoiseach has said the answer to this is not turning O'Connell Street into a car park, because you can see the knock-on effect is there's no traffic inside the city centre. People can't get in. So why is damaging these people's businesses?
As I said, I'm involved in the transport business. We've been all around the country. I have had trucks caught in protests all over the country. We have sat for hours and sat for days. I sat in Dublin Port in there one evening for 6 hours and protest for Free Palestine. I sat for other things all around the country, and even lorries years ago got caught up in France for a couple of weeks. So they got their chance, and we had to respect it. When we were caught up in the protests and we were suffering, we had to go for it. But this is for the Irish people. It's for the whole of Ireland. It's not just, I'm not going to benefit by being here today. You're not going to be. It's all round. It's when a price of a pound of butter, a sliced pan, it's gone crazy, and it's going to keep going. So where is it going to stop?
How long is this going to go on for?
From talking to the people here, I can't see it stopping. I can't see. There's lads here, and Jesus, they're in no hurry home. And in fairness to them, all they wanted was to sit with somebody in government. Even if somebody in government would say, listen lads, we'll have a meeting with you in 2 weeks, it's all over. But Jesus, it's not a lot to ask. And you see people over around the Dáil protesting and trying to get in the gates, and they'll be laying in. And Jesus, these are just people that just wants a conversation, and we're behind them, and they have the backing of the public. There's people coming up here supporting it and saying, yes lads, stick with it, even on the roads, and you're me an odd person that's against it, but that's the way it's going to be in every debate. Nobody wants to be here. If you talk to them, they're all, and they're talking, there was only a rumour that the army was coming. Jesus, they're no one here going to take on the army, we're not that type of people. There's no aggression, there's no...
Army and the guards, have any guards approached you to move?
But if it would be, if it's a thing, if I was in business and there was a situation in a place that I had people employed, and it just meant me going out to talk to them, or paying a security company thousands to come out and move them. So that's what this is. It's only want to have a meeting with government. They're not looking for a lot, and sending the army out to the like of this now would be a joke.
Which army were they sending out? Which army?
I don't know.
We have 2 armies.
Oh, good stuff.
Right. And do you regard this as breaking the law?
It's a peaceful protest. There's people passing, blowing horns. There's an ambulance after going up there 10 minutes ago. There's no bother. There's nothing being held up. They have put diversions in place. The traffic is moving all around. There's no. I can't see any hassle. There's nobody giving that. It's great support. There's everyone is there with cups of coffees. We were here yesterday and they came around with sandwiches. I went home yesterday. I had other bits to do, but back up this morning, and there is people being affected. Of course there is, but we're hoping it'll be a short-term thing, and it's very easy to put a stop to it.